Let's talk about our prisons. Our correctional services system is a complex beast, is it not? Overcrowding, outdated infrastructure, serious security lapses. In Gauteng alone, prisons are bursting at the seams. They've got far more inmates than many of them were ever designed for, and it's led to tough conditions and heightened tensions within the system. Take the Thabo Bester breakout example. That certainly exposed serious crack in security. Remember, the cameras were malfunctioning, clear security violations leading to his flight. So whether they are managed by the department or outsourced to private services, correctional services can do better. Keeping an eye on all of that is, of course, the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services in Parliament. And its chairperson, Kgomotso Ramolobeng, joins us now this morning. And Kgomotso, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Bongani, for having me, and good morning to the listeners.
What's your sense of the state of our correctional services facilities? I mean, my introduction, did I describe it correctly? Is that how you see it?
You did describe it exactly as how it is. Ours was to also make sure that the state and conditions in correctional facilities are according to the System Act of Correctional Services, and they are functioning properly as they should. But to our surprise, others are not functioning properly.
What are some of the worst examples you've seen?
Modape Correctional Facility is the worst one that we have seen.
Why?
When we did. Based on it has serious dilapidated infrastructure that is worse, bad conditions, to an extent that the kitchen has been closed. So Modape its kitchens now operates in Bosbeck Correctional Facility, which is 20 kilometers away from it. So food gets to be transported from Bosbeck to Modape based on how the conditions of the kitchen is. It's how bad it was. The hospital, it's bad. There is just a waterfall inside the hospital facility, and which carries a very, very bad smell. And that hospital houses around about 40 inmates that need care, and I think they stay there most of the time, because we found 40 inmates that are in the hospital who are being taken care of by nurses. You have an occupational doctor that visits, I think, twice a week. But the condition that they are in, no one would actually want to be in that situation or in that hospital if you were able to choose.
Gosh, I mean, you mentioned this facility, Modape. How many inmates does it house, and what's the impact on the prison where the food now has to be prepared and transported back?
It houses 5,372 total inmates, and it houses, in that total inmates, it houses 2,009, 2912, which are foreign national population inmates, and South Africans are 2,459. Look, it impacts on the times that breakfast should be. Ideally, breakfast in prison would be around 7, 8, or 6, 7 in the morning. And then on our visits, breakfast was being given to inmates around 11, 12. So that is the lunch time. You need to prepare for lunch for them, because the lockup system of prisons is not the same way as us who are outside. They normally do an unlock around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and they do a lockup at around 4, 5 o'clock. So when they do a lockup, it means inmates already have received their dinner for the night. So if you are by 11 or 12, you're giving them breakfast, it means around 3, 4, you should be giving them lunch. And that is the time for lockup. And when they do a lockup, they need to individually count inmates. That the 5,372, that was the unlock in the morning. It's still the lockup in the evening, so that to make sure that there is no inmate that has escaped or any other security breaches that might have occurred.
One of the issues you mentioned there is the number of undocumented foreign nationals in the system. Has that exacerbated the pressure on our correctional facilities?
It has, because if you calculate this number, 2,912 of foreign population inmate in that facility, they rounded off around 55%.
Have they been found guilty of any crimes, or is it just issues to do with immigration infractions?
They ranges on some it's issues of immigration, but others it's housebreaking, robbery, theft, and so forth and so on. Because out of the 2,912 remand detainees who are still going through trial are 1,334, and those who are sentenced are 1,578. So those who are still appearing court, it's 1,334, who the courts might decide otherwise on them. But amongst them, that number, it is others based on immigration issues, but others is crimes that they would have committed.
Overall, how many inmates is the system designed to hold?
Modape, the system is supposed to hold around 3,000.
I mean, broadly countrywide.
I do not have the stats currently. I only have the ones that we did the oversight on. I can furnish you with those details possibly after the interview for you to have. But DCS, it's facing, based on their visit to the portfolio committee 2 weeks back when they appeared, they indicated an overcrowding of 200% of their facilities.
So how many inmates do they have overall in total?
Jix was responding yesterday. Jix was appearing before the portfolio committee yesterday based on the annual report. They indicated DCS has around 70,000 population of inmates, but an accurate stats would get it next week from the department as it appearing next week to indicate to the portfolio on vacancies that they're facing. How do they intend to fill them? So we'll get that accurate stats.
No. I meant the inmates, not Correctional Services officials. So you don't have that number. Does it make a difference who runs the prisons? We've seen, of course, the great Thabo Bester escape. That was a privately run institution. It didn't seem to have helped even there when the private sector gets involved.
Look, triple Ps, that's what we're calling them, the privately owned, because there are two in the country. It's Mangaung and Kutama Suntumelo, which is in Toyando. They are properly run facilities with systems, with cameras. For you to be able to access the facility, even inside to move around, there is a control room that manages your movements. So if the control room does not open for you, you will be where you are. You will not even have access to any place, the kitchen, the cells, and so forth. So how the escape was done, it was just a man-made escape. And if you would have followed through that inquiry of Thabo Bester, it would have indicated, because it was not just a coincidence that cameras stop operating at 4 o'clock in the morning when the incident happens up until when the incident ends, and then cameras now suddenly functions normally. Because if you go there now, cameras functions properly. They have no problem of operations. And again, you do not have a backup. Why would you not have a backup system when you are running a security facility, which if anything happens, you need to be able to refresh what happened so that you hold those accountable, those officials accountable if they might have done something on their own. So that was a situation of man-made.
Well, of course. I mean, of course it was man-made. But what I'm saying is it doesn't appear that even when the private sector is involved, things like that can't be avoided. Of course, it was man-made. But perhaps as we round off our discussion, Chairperson, the new minister is focusing on clearing the backlog on parole hearings for lifers. And the idea, of course, is to free up space there. Is that an encouraging development?
It is an encouraging development, because last week when we did the oversight, almost all centers were expressing how they've sent profiles of inmates seeking parole to the NCCS. So NCCS, when it appeared before the portfolio committee 3 weeks back, it indicated that it has no backlog. Everything that they would have processed, they would have sent to the minister for consideration, either to approve or to reject or to send back for ratification. And the current minister would have received, upon him resuming his responsibilities as a minister, a serious backlog of profiles sitting on his desk. So his main priority was to clear that. And as the portfolio committee, we appreciate that he is able to clear it. And he gave a deadline to the portfolio committee that on the 15th of October, which was yesterday, he would have finished all the backlog that he received upon resumption of his duties as a minister. So next week, he would be appearing before the portfolio committee to take us through that clearing of backlogs, including vacancies that the department has in totality.
All right, we'll leave it there with the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services in Parliament, Kgomotso Ramolobeng.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.